Why I'm a UU? I am a UU basically because I chose the right parents. My parents were UU, and I'm one of our lifelongers. So, that's a simple answer to a complex question. For me, the question is, why do you stay UU, and what's unique about what we have? And to me, the answer comes around to the diversity of thought we have, the emphasis that we have on community, and the beloved nature of our community when we have it, and our principles. I've always believed that our 7 principles, soon to be 8, are aspirational and help guide us in the decisions that we make through our lives. So anyway, this Thanksgiving, Annie and I are both up at Camp de Veneville Pines. We're at 7,000 feet in the San Bernardino Mountains, place where I've been coming since I was a child for well over 60 years now. And I'm thankful for being here. I have the honor to be the camp doc. I'm thankful that it was a safe weekend, that no one had any serious mishaps that I had to attend to, or any serious medical issues. I'm always thankful about that. And I'm also thankful that it was cold, and I like the cold, and I like being able to hike up when it's cold and the air is clear, and that we can get the perspective that mountain traveling gives us. You'll have to forgive us. We have friends that are using the kitchen here in the foyer of Craig's cabin. That's on the other side away from me. That's the background noise you hear. But I'm just thankful for friends. Been coming to Thanksgiving here for years, and I love it. And the sacred circles that we have, and the opportunity to be with the mountain, and to show that it's my job to take hikes around and to show people all the stuff that happens behind the scenes, and the paths that go through the mountains and the trails. And we always have a wonderful time doing that. And I'm just thankful for that opportunity. And I'm thankful for you guys as a church. It's our 2nd or 3rd church since I grew up in the Ventura Church. And then we have the High Desert Church, and we have you guys as a church. And I'm just thankful for all of that. And so that's why I'm UU, because I find so much that I love about being UU and staying UU, and so much to be thankful for our blessed community that we create together. And I'll sign off and send it over to Annie.
Recording. Yeah. Anyway, hi everybody, good morning. I'm coming to you from Camp de Veneville up in the San Bernardino Mountains. I wish I could be with you in person. I always want to be with you in person, but I'm glad to join you on Zoom. We're getting ready to have our closing ceremony here, so we're recording this. But why am I UU? Well, it started when I was in junior high school. We lived in Sarasota, Florida, and within a mile from our place, there was this beautiful church building. It was very unique, a lot of angles to it, and we started going to that church, and it turned out to be a UU church. And when we moved back to Indiana, we continued, and it was actually in someone's home. Then there was a long period that I was with Unitarian Church of Religious Science, and I discovered UU up in Victorville, California, where I presently live. And I didn't really remember anything from being in junior high, but I loved the principles. And as Ross said, the principles are just so important to our organization. And I love our chalice. I'm wearing a chalice that I got at UUA in Portland. And I love the people. The people are so smart. They're so kind. They're so compassionate. They're involved in politics. They don't just stand by and let the world run them over. They say, hey, we're important. The gender is not important to us. Color is not important to us. Ethnicity isn't important to us. You can be a Buddhist. You can be a Catholic. You can be anything you want. You can be an atheist. But we love you and we accept you. And I feel that love. I mean, I love to give hugs. I love to get hugs. And that's what I do. So I am UU because I love our principles and I love our people. And blessings to you. I'm so thankful that I have you as my main church. Mwah.
Feelings we need to keep in this community. You know, there are people who have been associated for many years, and Don less so. Don and I were twins in our enrollment here at UUFLB. We came in at the same time to a community that had so much to offer. For someone like me with a background in parochial education by nuns until I was 18, the thought that I could think for myself and have different thoughts than everybody else in the room and be acceptable, that was a beautiful thing to me, and I still feel that way. So we're back in the room. Is there anyone who has sharing? Dara?
Hello, my name is Doris Gurecki. I'm the person who does the AV, the sound back there. But I've been here since I was 7 years old. My mom had a friend who was coming here, and her kids were coming. And they're the same age as us, as my brother and I. Actually, we just spent Thanksgiving with them. But we decided to start coming when I was about 7, and I've been coming ever since. When I was younger, no one knew what Unitarian Universalism was. I remember my next door neighbors, my neighbors next door that were my friends, they're really Catholic. And they didn't really understand what it meant, but I still went to church every week. But they went to like they talked about it. But there were things that I knew about Christianity and Catholicism that they did not know because they hadn't been taught some of the things. Because we in Sunday school had been taught like the Bible stories and things like that, and they had not even been told more than just the top, and it was very interesting to have a conversation with them. I remember in high school having a friend who told me that Unitarian Universalism was much like was the politically correct version of Catholicism, and he said that the last thing that was that God made politically correct was Satan. Yeah, that guy was Roman Catholic, but it was very interesting being around people growing up who were different. Most of my family members, we didn't go to church only on Easter, like Christian Catholic church, when we would go to Arizona and visit my grandmother. And I hadn't really been to, I didn't really know like exactly, I hadn't been raised by parents who were telling me, they're both very science-based, and my dad had grown up Catholic, but my mom hadn't really wanted something else other than that. My dad did not really agree with the church and believed in science. And so I just started coming as a habit. It wasn't until I became a member a few years ago, and I'm on the board but it wasn't until this past summer when I went to another church that I realized that there's a reason I'm here. We went to a church in Vermont, and this church was a lot like ours, but it felt like home, and it felt like I agree with everything there, and it was really nice to be there because I never felt that with when I would visit someone else's place. And that's why I stayed, just because I feel like this is home and I believe in everything that I hear here. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the building this morning? I see Linda.
Well, I came to this UU church because I wanted to get laid. I'd met Oakley Frost. Well, it's true. I'd met Oakley, and I'd known him just a few days, and he invited me to come to church with him, so I did. And we attended the Orange Coast Church initially, and when I walked in, they were saying, instead of all men, they were saying all women, and I liked that very much. Anyway, we ended up here, and I became a member to vote on something. And I felt very strongly about it. I can't remember what the issue was, but it was something important to me. And at that point in time, which was 25 years ago, they did not have anything. I was told I couldn't vote on it because I wasn't a member. I said, how do I become a member? You said you signed the book. So I signed the book, and I've been a member ever since. But it was because I wanted to vote on something. Anyway, there you go. It's a great place to get laid, to meet somebody wonderful. Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, it's been fun. I learned a lot myself. Oh, here comes Oakley. She's a tough act to follow. You may have experience in that.
Yeah, I was raised an Episcopalian and was an acolyte and wore the gown, carried the cross, lit the candles. I was really into all of that. And one of the things we did every Sunday was recite the Nicene Creed. This I believe. I believe in God the Father Almighty, and you went on from there. I mean, you believed in this, you believed in that, you believed the third day he rose again, the whole thing. I love the candles, I love the pageantry, I love the words of the prayer book. The only problem I had was I didn't believe. And when I graduated from high school, went off to college, I didn't resent the church. I didn't have bad memories of the church, but I just drifted away. And I drifted away for about, 30 years or so. When I was about 50 years old, I was reading a book on the American Revolution, and it was describing our founding fathers and some of their religious thoughts. And some of them were deists. I think Jefferson was probably considered a deist more than a Unitarian. The Adams, John Quincy Adams, were Unitarians. And I thought, wow, this sounds like at least they have a lot less that I would have to believe in. So back in those days, you didn't Google. I went to the phone book, and I looked up, and I found a Unitarian church, and I went to. And it was really an eye-opener. I mean, I could actually go to something called a church and not feel that I was a hypocrite. I could actually belong and feel part of it. And so that's why I've been coming back ever since. I certainly appreciate all the other churches that are out there and why they appeal to other people. But as for myself personally, I cannot picture any other church. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. In the interests of time, unless there's somebody, is there anybody else that wishes to share? Oh, Harry.
I will try to be brief, which is not my forte. I was raised a Catholic. My mother was Episcopalian. She agreed to have us, my sister and I, raised Catholic. And I didn't so much believe it as just took it for granted, just like learning math or history or science or anything. I never questioned. I was told the way it was. I went to various Catholic schools. About half my classes were in Catholic schools. My father moved around a lot. When I went to college, I was in a fraternity. I had 9 fraternity brothers in my class. We debated religion. By the time we graduated, we were all pretty much atheists, although technically we were probably agnostics because we didn't insist there wasn't a God. We just said we didn't find it a useful concept. And I remained that until I got married and ended up living in Columbus, Indiana. And my wife had been a Unitarian for a while. She was raised a Presbyterian. And she and some other people in town started a Unitarian church. So I started going, and it was perfect. I didn't have to believe anything. I began to realize the important role that churches played in communities, regardless of what they believed. And we had a lovely little group, and it went great. And then we moved to New York, and there was a Unitarian church nearby. My wife started going. I started going. I was a Unitarian. Then my wife left me for another Unitarian in our church, which sort of soured me a little bit on the Unitarians. I left too, and I ended up a few years later as a Quaker, and I spent the next 23 years as a Quaker. And I like to say I didn't become a Quaker, I discovered that's what I was. I forgot to mention in college, I came under the influence of a man called Houston Smith, who's a well-known author. He was a teacher of a class I took, and that definitely influenced me. And I began to study Zen and Hinduism and things like that. Anyway, so I'm really a mixture of things. I look for 2 things. One is community. I happen to love kids, so the one thing this place lacks for me is kids. I get along better with kids than adults. They quickly realize I'm one of them. At the other Unitarian church, this is my 4th Unitarian church, I was always very active with the kids. And the other thing, my hobby is music, and I love to sing, so I am a little disappointed we don't have more music in Unitarian churches, but we have some. Also, I just want to add one thing I've grown to appreciate. When I rejected the Catholic Church, I threw it all out. It was just a giant pack of lies. I've slowly come to realize that the values weren't necessarily all wrong. And also there was a sense of community to some extent. And I now go to, well, I don't anymore. When I go home to Tampa when my parents were alive, we always went to Mass on Christmas Day and that sort of thing, Easter. And the pageantry, the drama, the colors, the candles, the lights, the colored glass, the incense. You know, when you're going for a sensual experience, incense gets in there. So I now do appreciate a lot of what the other religions have, but as far as my belief structure goes, I'm very comfortable as a Unitarian.
Thank you, Harry. Thank you, everybody. You know, we came from a difficult situation of having a performer cancel. And I think it's been a very worthwhile getting to know each other again. So thank you all for participating.